Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. It's the kind of evening where nothing's rushing and the fluorescent hum of the rec center lights feels like it's been echoing for decades. Inside the dojo, sneakers squeak, laughter bounces, and the mats smell faintly of sweat and age. Everyone's in motion, stretching, chatting, tapping gloves. Except for one man who isn't rushing at all. Leonard Brooks steps through the door without fanfare. 75. Retired. Leaner than he used to be, but his frame still holds something underneath the windbreaker. Something the room can't quite read yet. His cane taps twice before his left foot drags softly behind. He pauses just inside the threshold, eyes scanning the room like a soldier measuring terrain. No one notices. No one. Until Caden does. 19. Loud, fast on his feet, slow to think. He elbows the guy next to him and nods toward Leonard. Wrong class, Grandpa. He smirks. A few students chuckle. Not cruel, just careless. Even Chris Delgado, the instructor, doesn't say much. Just offers a quick wave and continues adjusting a student's stance. He's been running the Tuesday night beginners class for about 6 months. Plenty of egos. Plenty of dropouts. Leonard, he figures, won't last the warm-up. But Leonard doesn't react. Not a single muscle in his face twitches. He walks to the far corner and gently sets his water bottle down, unzips his gym bag, and removes a pair of simple training shoes. Slow, measured, like he's done this hundreds of times. Dana, a 16-year-old with quiet eyes and unsure footing, watches him from across the mat. She's new, eager. She notices the limp, but doesn't laugh. Her gaze lingers a second longer than anyone else's. Chris claps. All right, horse stances. Lock those knees. Tighten your core. Let's go. The students line up, feet wide, knees bent, arms firm. Leonard joins them at the end of the row, silent. He slips off his windbreaker. Beneath it, a faded gray t-shirt. Plain, no logo, no noise. His shoulders round forward briefly, then square off as he adjusts his footing. He's stiff, yes, but something about him feels practiced. Caden glances over, snickering. You sure you're not here for Tai Chi? Another chuckle nearby. Chris hears it, but doesn't address it. He watches Leonard out of the corner of his eye, uncertain. He has a class to run. Can't babysit every ego. And then Leonard reaches into his bag once more. Out comes a black belt. Not shiny, not new. It's frayed at the ends, the threads loosened by time, not design. He ties it slowly, methodically. Not for show, but like it belongs there. The noise dies. Caden squints. Wait, that dude has a black belt. Leonard steps forward. Just a single step. He rolls his shoulder once, then pivots sharply and fires a kick toward the foam pad leaning against the mirror. It lands inches from the target, stopping dead without contact. Balanced. Silent. Perfectly placed. Chris freezes mid-step. Dana's mouth parts slightly. Caden stares. No one says anything. Leonard steps back into line. No bow, no smile. He simply places his hands behind his back and waits for the next command. For the first time all evening, the dojo falls still. Later, Chris tries to keep the class moving, but the atmosphere's changed, like someone turned the volume down on ego. Leonard says nothing, moves like water, careful, deliberate, efficient. He doesn't speak, but the mat listens. Dana watches closely. Her posture, previously wobbly, sharpens slightly. She imitates how Leonard shifts weight, how he pivots, not perfectly, but thoughtfully. She doesn't know why yet, but something about him makes her want to be better. Caden watches too, but with something closer to resentment. Chris sees it all and says nothing. But some truths don't stay quiet forever. Dana's left foot keeps slipping. She knows it's wrong, she can feel it in her hips, but she can't seem to plant it the way Chris demonstrated. Her frustration's starting to show in her breath, short and sharp. She bites the inside of her cheek and resets. And then a shadow approaches. Leonard crouches beside her. It's not easy, his joints protest, but he lowers himself slowly, carefully, until he's eye level with her. Your back heel, he says softly. It's coming up too early. Press it down. Let the drive come from your hip, not your toes. Dana blinks. His voice is calm, firm, no judgment, just presence. She nods, tries again. This time the difference is slight, but she feels it. Better, she asks. He gives a single nod, closer. Chris sees the exchange from across the room but doesn't intervene. It's his class. He tells himself he's just observing. Still, he feels something tugging at the edge of his pride. Caden watches too, arms crossed, mouth twisted in a half-smile that doesn't quite reach his eyes. When Leonard rises and returns to the edge of the mat, Caden raises his voice. Hey, old man, you ever actually teach? Or you just pull that belt out when someone's looking? The room stills. Chris steps forward, tension creeping into his jaw. That's enough, Caden. But Leonard raises a hand. It's fine. He walks a few paces toward the center of the mat. No puffed chest, no glare. Just a quiet, steady presence. You want to test something, Leonard says, pointing to the center? We do it safe, we do it right. Caden scoffs. You serious? Leonard doesn't answer, just waits. Chris hesitates. His instinct says no. But the room is holding its breath. Light sparring only, he says. No contact. Keep it respectful. Caden stretches his arms, bouncing on the balls of his feet. Let's go, Grandpa. They square off. Caden moves his first light on his feet, cocky quick. He feints left, then throws a right jab toward the open space in Leonard's defense. Leonard doesn't move. Not yet. He's watching. Second move, a spinning sidekick. Flashy. Too wide. Leonard steps aside. Just one step. Precise. Efficient. Caden stumbles forward. Not much, but enough. A chuckle from the corner. Dana covers her mouth, trying not to smile. They reset. This time, Caden comes fast, punches loose, and rapid, meant to overwhelm. Leonard doesn't punch back. He doesn't need to. He deflects each strike with simple practiced angles like water slipping around a rock. No wasted effort. No retaliation. Just movement. Chris watches, stunned. His hands drop from his hips. Caden finally steps back, panting. He's sweating now. Leonard. Barely winded. Leonard offers a small bow and turns away. No gloat, no smirk. Caden stands there red-faced, breathing hard, fists loose at his sides. He says nothing. He can't. Leonard walks back to the edge of the mat, picks up his towel, and sips from his water bottle. Dana whispers to the girl next to her. That was real, right? The girl nods. The rest of the class goes quiet. No chatter between drills. No laughter. Chris tries to regain control, barking the next sequence, but even his voice lacks bite now. Something shifted. Leonard doesn't try to lead. He stays at the edge, moving through forms quietly. But eyes keep drifting to him, Dana's especially. Caden, sitting on the bench now, leans forward, elbows on knees, jaw tight. Whatever he expected, it wasn't this. The class ends without fanfare. Students file out slower than usual. A few pretend to check their phones, pretending they're not looking his way. Leonard stays seated. Dana approaches, nervous, curious. Mr. Brooks, right? Leonard nods. That's right. She sits beside him, not too close, just enough to ask, how long have you been doing this? He exhales slowly. Since I was 19. She fidgets with the strap of her gym bag. You ever teach before? For a long time. Why'd you stop? Leonard's fingers tap against his knee. 1, 2, 3. Life changed, he says. Some things, you let go, even if they still pull. Dana doesn't fully understand, but she feels the weight in his voice. He stands slowly. See you next week, she asks. Leonard pauses. Maybe he says. But some wounds don't stay buried, and some students don't stay silent. Rain slides down the window panes of Leonard's small one-bedroom apartment, tracing slow, crooked lines across the glass. The sky outside is the color of cooled steel, and the hum of the refrigerator plays rhythm to the morning stillness. Leonard sits at the edge of his bed, bent slightly, as he ties his left shoe, then his right. Routine. It matters. It keeps his edges from unraveling. On the kitchen table beside his cold coffee sits a black and white photo in a frame that's seen better days. A group of young men in uniform standing in neat rows, sunlit hills of Okinawa behind them. In the center, a younger Leonard eyes forward, shoulders square, hands behind his back. Strength without tension. Beside it rests another frame, smaller. Inside isn't a photo, but a folded white belt, its edge inked with faded Japanese characters. He's never explained to anyone what the kanji means, not even to his brother before he passed. He picks up the mug anyway, takes a sip, doesn't flinch at the bitterness. Bitterness, after all, is familiar. Later that morning, Leonard walks to the Jefferson Community Clinic. The sidewalk's slick with drizzle and the ache in his hip pulses like an old clock ticking too loud in a quiet room. But he walks anyway. Cane steady, pace slow. Halfway down the block, he hears a voice. Mr. Brooks. He turns. Joy. Late 30s windblown, wrapped in a worn denim jacket too thin for the weather. Her eyes are tired, but alert. He doesn't recognize her. It's Joy, she says, Joy Carter. Marcus's cousin. The name lands like thunder in his chest. Marcus, his student, 17. Fearless, gone before Leonard ever got to say goodbye. You probably don't remember me, Joy says, stepping forward. But Marcus trained with you back in '89. He looked up to you. Like really looked up to you. Leonard blinks. His throat tightens. His grip on the cane stiffens. I remember, he says softly. Joy looks away for a moment, then back. I always wondered, she says, why you left after he died. Leonard breathes in, holds it too long, and exhales through his nose. Rain taps against the sidewalk like fingers drumming a restless beat. I blamed myself, he says. Thought maybe if I'd trained him better, faster, maybe he'd still be alive. Joy's eyes widen. No, she says sharply. Don't say that. Don't do that to yourself. She steps closer. Marcus wasn't even supposed to be there that night. He went to find me. My brother was into something bad, and Marcus tried to pull me out of it. Leonard stares at her. That bullet wasn't meant for him, Joy says, voice shaking. It was for me. He pushed me out of the way, took it instead. Silence, except for the wind. I couldn't say it back then, she continues. I was 17, scared. If I said it out loud, it would have made it real. Leonard lowers himself onto the steps outside the clinic. Slowly, carefully, Joy sits next to him. I still carry it, he says, voice barely above a whisper. Then maybe she says, it's time to set it down. They sit in the rain, not speaking, not needing to. Something inside Leonard, something locked away for 3 decades moves, not gone, but shifted. Later that night he lies awake. The dojo echoes in his mind. Dana's determined face, Caden's restless eyes, the way Chris looked at him when the class ended. The next Tuesday he returns. This time there's no laughter when he walks in. Caden doesn't speak, just nods. Chris greets him properly. Good to see you, Mr. Brooks. Leonard, he replies. Dana runs up, notebook in hand. I brought this, she grins. You said writing helps. Leonard allows a smile to tug at the corner of his mouth. That's a good start. Class begins. The drills are tighter, the tones quieter, focused. Dana mimics his every move not as an echo, but as a student. Chris gives her space, watches from a distance. Across the room, Caden keeps glancing at Leonard. Every kick, every pivot. Something's itching under his skin. Then during a break, he walks over. Hey, he says, not loud, not challenging. You free after class? Leonard raises an eyebrow. You looking to spar? Caden shakes his head. No, I'm looking for a real test. Chris hears it and approaches. Let's not do this again. I'm not here to fight. Caden says, palms open. I've been thinking about what happened, about how I acted, and I want to learn. Not just moves, how you stay so calm, how you read people, all of it. Leonard studies him, long enough to make Caden fidget. You want to learn, Leonard says, or you want to win. I want to earn it, Caden replies. Leonard doesn't smile, but he nods. After class, he says, and in that moment, something that's been dormant inside him for years flickers awake. But some legacies don't get passed down with words. They're carved through pressure, through presence. Saturday morning smells like old vinyl mats and something faintly citrus, maybe from the cleaner they used the night before. The rec center is quiet, its usual chaos paused by the early hour. No groups, no music, just the thud of feet on foam and breath echoing off the walls. Caden is early, alone, running through basic forms in the corner of the mat, sweat already building on his brow. He's not bouncing today. His stance is tighter, his footwork sharper, but there's tension, still too much force behind every move. Leonard steps in at 8:03, a gym bag slung over one shoulder, black pants, white tee, same old training shoes. He doesn't speak, just walks to the edge of the mat and drops his bag beside a folded towel. You didn't think I'd show, he says without looking up. That makes two of us. Caden replies, half smiling, half nervous. Leonard nods. Let's see what's stuck. They don't jump into sparring. Leonard starts with groundwork, foot placement, shifting weight, slow rotations. He circles Caden as they move, correcting with short, quiet taps to the shoulder or hip. Stop bouncing on your heels, Leonard says. You burn out fast. Feel the floor. Caden adjusts. Don't show your lead hand before you commit. You're giving the answer before I even ask the question. Caden nods, trying not to overthink. Sweat drips from his temple. Breath, Leonard says. You're leaking energy every time you forget it. They keep going, no music, no timer, just movement and voice. For 40 minutes, Leonard teaches like it matters because it does. Not to prove anything, but because the boy across from him is still learning how to move through life. Finally, Leonard steps back. Ready for contact, Caden straightens. Like last time, Leonard shakes his head. Not light, real, controlled but real. Caden hesitates only a second. Let's go. They square off. This time it's different. Caden waits. He doesn't rush. He tries to feel Leonard's rhythm. Anticipate, not react. Leonard strikes low. Quick. A tap to the thigh, not enough to hurt, but precise. Caden grits his teeth. You're thinking too much, Leonard says. By the time you decide, the moment's gone. They reset. Caden feints. Leonard doesn't flinch. Another step. A wide hook. Too wide. Leonard doesn't block. He steps in, placing two fingers gently on Caden's chest. If I were someone else, he says calm and low, that would have been your jaw. Caden swallows. They circle again. But Caden's frustration returns. His strikes grow heavier, sloppier. Then it happens, a looping right, wild and impatient. Leonard leans away, but not fast enough. The glove grazes his temple, just enough to stumble him off balance. Caden freezes. Oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean. Leonard raises a hand. Stop. He walks to the edge of the mat and sits on the bench. No anger, no words, just silence. Caden lingers mid-mat, unsure. His knuckles throb. His heart's racing for the wrong reason now. Should I go, he asks. Leonard doesn't look at him, no. Caden walks over slowly, sits on the other end of the bench, rubs his hand. Does it get easier, he asks. The control part. Leonard turns to him, eyes sharp. It never gets easy, he says, but it becomes familiar. He leans in slightly. You learn not to carry your anger in your fists. Caden looks down. I wasn't mad at you, I was mad at myself. Leonard nods. That's the kind of anger that breaks the most things. They sit in silence, two men, one young, one older, but both learning. I lost control, Caden says. Leonard doesn't argue. He just asks, so now what? Caden breathes in deep. I keep showing up. Leonard stands slowly. His hip aches, but it's nothing new. He digs into his bag, pulls out a small roll of athletic tape, and tosses it to Caden. For your hand. Caden catches it. Thanks. Leonard grabs his cane and starts for the exit. I ever tell you how many bones I broke before I learned to keep my hands soft, he calls over his shoulder. Caden shakes his head. How many? 17. First one was a finger, Leonard says. Thought power came from punching harder. He glances back, eyes steady. Turns out it comes from knowing when not to punch at all. Caden stares after him, tape still in hand. That Monday, the story spreads. Not just that Leonard came back, not just that Caden sparred with him, but that something changed. People talk. And Tuesday night, the class is full. Chris meets Leonard at the door. We've got 6 new signups, he says, holding a clipboard. 4 of them said they came after hearing what happened Saturday. Leonard doesn't grin, but something in him settles. The room is different now. Dana leads warm-ups. Caden helps the new kid Avery, who can't find his balance. And Leonard? He floats between students, adjusting wrists, realigning stances, speaking just loud enough for them to hear. Chris watches from the corner. You ever think about running your own class again, he asks. Leonard keeps his eyes on the mat. I ran enough in my time. But not here, Chris says. Leonard finally looks at him. You offering? Chris shrugs. We've got the space. Leonard doesn't answer, not yet. Instead, he gathers the class. I've been on mats like this most of my life, he says. And if there's one thing I know, it's that everyone walks in carrying something. Pride, pain, fear, maybe all 3. Dana listens closely. So does Caden. But here, we don't train to fight each other. We train to fight what we brought in with us. Eyes drop, heads nod. I'm not here to impress you, Leonard says. I'm here because someone asked me to show up. He pauses. And sometimes that's the beginning of change. No one claps, but everyone hears it. And some students don't need belts to show they're becoming something more. 2 weeks later, the dojo hums with motion, but it's a quieter kind of energy. Focused, balanced. The chatter is softer, the movement's sharper. Tuesday night class is no longer just a workout. It's something else now. Something that lives between breath and stillness. Leonard arrives early. He steps onto the mat with less fanfare than ever. His movements are slower tonight, not tired, but watching. He doesn't lead the warm-up, doesn't call the drills. He just flows in the background like a current beneath the surface. Chris runs the session. Dana counts out each step during her group's kata. Her voice, once timid, now carries across the room. Confident, clear. 3-4. Hold it there, boyam. Breathe. Leonard nods to himself quietly. Across the mat, Caden works with Avery again. He's not correcting as much, more like guiding. Patient even when Avery stumbles. He waits, then repeats. Leonard moves to the edge of the mat and takes a seat on the bench. His cane leans beside him. His water bottle untouched. His towel folded neatly on his lap. He watches. When class ends, the students linger. Not because they're unsure, but because they don't want it to be over. Dana walks over, notebook in hand. Did I count too fast on the last run, she asks. Leonard shakes his head. You found the rhythm, the others followed. She grins. I didn't think I'd ever be able to do that. He tilts his head. You're not doing it. You've done it. Now you just have to keep showing up. She hesitates. You coming next week? Leonard takes a breath. Not every week. Her face falls. Why not? He gestures toward the mat. Because now, you don't need me every week. Across the room, Chris is chatting with the new students. Caden is helping clean up without being asked. The class flows without him, not around him. And that's the point. Dana watches him for a beat, then smiles softly. So, who's going to keep Caden in line? Leonard chuckles. That it's your job now. She laughs and jogs back to the others, notebook swinging from her hand. Leonard stays on the bench, letting the sound of footsteps and quiet laughter wash over him. The squeak of shoes on the mat, the soft thud of a mitt being packed away. Life happening without his lead. Chris walks over and sits beside him. You sure about this? He asks. Leonard nods. They've got it. You could still teach. You've got them listening not just to technique, but to everything. Leonard gives a half shrug. That's why it's the right time to leave. Chris looks across the floor. You built something here. I didn't build it, Leonard says. I reminded them it was already in them. Chris lets that land, says nothing more. Leonard stands slowly. His movements are stiff but steady. He picks up his bag, loops the towel over one arm. As he walks toward the exit, Chris calls after him. Hope you come back sometime. Leonard pauses at the door. I will. But not to teach. Chris blinks. Then why? Leonard turns, the corners of his mouth lifted ever so slightly. To watch. Outside, the sun's already set. The sky holds the last trace of gold, fading into a soft navy. The parking lot is nearly empty. The breeze carries the sound of kids playing soccer in the distance. Leonard finds the same bench by the side fence, the one where he can sit and see without being seen. He lowers himself down, places the bag beside him, and breathes. He's not searching anymore. He's remembering. In his mind, he sees Marcus again, young, fast, determined. Then Dana, mid-form, arms crisp and balanced. Caden pausing before a strike, not to power up, but to think. These moments aren't trophies, they're echoes. Then a voice calls from the door. Mr. Brooks, you forgot your towel. It's Dana, waving the folded cloth in one hand. He lifts a hand and waves her off. Keep it. She raises an eyebrow. Why? Because someone's going to need it next round. She grins, then disappears back inside. Leonard settles back into the bench, places his cane across his lap. He closes his eyes, not to sleep, but to feel. There's no grand finale, no belt ceremony, no applause. Just peace, and sometimes, that's the greatest reward of all. Sometimes stories don't end with fireworks. Sometimes they end with someone sitting alone and finally feeling whole. Leonard didn't need a stage. He didn't need to be praised or applauded. He needed one thing: to know that what he once carried guilt silence lessons he thought had gone to waste had somewhere else to live now, somewhere else to grow. He walked into that dojo expecting nothing and left it with something no belt could hold. Because wisdom doesn't scream, it whispers. And real strength is knowing when to lead and when to let go. Dana will teach now, Caden will grow, others will find their footing, and somewhere on a quiet bench, a man who once thought his best years were behind him will sit and smile. Because sometimes the loudest redemption is simply being seen again and letting go when the time is finally right. If this story moved, you share it with someone who's been holding on too long, someone who forgot how much they still have to give. And before you go, tell us in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time is it where you are? Because the right story always finds its moment.